How to create a search bar in Excel that returns matching items in real time as you type. For example, if I type pro, Excel already returns everything related to protein. And if I type something that doesn't exist, let's say ABC123, Excel says something like product not found. Try again. But if I type something that does exist, P, for example, it can return items like peanut butter and pea protein. So let's see step by step how to build this search bar to help us search inside a large table, because here I have a large data set about inventory movements. However, you could also use for different data sets. It doesn't matter actually, right? You have a data set, you can create this tool in Excel. The first thing we need to have in order to create our filter in Excel is to have a data set. And in my case, I have some inventory movements. However, if you work with a different type of data set, let's say purchasing, sales, logistics, HR, production, etc. It doesn't matter because it's going to work as well. The process is the same, the idea is the same. Now that I have my data set, this is the most important thing. I can select everything, click, hold, and drag from the first cell until the last one. Click, hold, and drag from the top to the bottom, like that. We can go to insert and transform this data set into an actual table, a real table. But why is that? Because a table has many benefits that I can show you. First, with this new dialog box that pops up in the screen, let's make sure to mark the option, yes, my table has headers, and go to OK. Now we have a table in Excel. And why is it important to have a table? Because every time you add new items, new information into your dataset, let me show you here an example. January 1st, 2027, enter. Excel adds automatically a new row into the table. So every time you add new rows, new items, new information, the filter tool that we are about to create also updates automatically with those new items. So the range expands automatically. However, let me remove this last row because I'm not going to use it right now. Okay, we have the table already, so I think now the important thing is to go to the footer of Excel, to the bottom, click on the plus sign to add a new sheet, because here is where we are going to create the filter itself. I think it's important to have a separate screen to do that, or a separate tab. Right click on this sheet, go to rename, and I'm going to call it filter. And the main idea with this filter sheet is to summarize, to filter the data set that we have. So I don't want to see everything, but I only want to see the information that I'm looking for. Let's say I type it here on the filter button, on the filter search bar for peanut. So the filter is going to return everything that resembles peanut, that matches with this word. Let's say peanut butter or anything else, right? Let me go back to the filter, and I want to start with the header because I think it gives Excel a more professional, more polished look. I want to click on the first row of Excel to select everything, go to the Home tab, and here I can change the fill color. Maybe I'm going to use a dark blue. And as the second row, I can also change the fill color just to create a thin line as a addition to the header itself. Let me go again to the painting bucket, and this time I want to use a green or a gray color. In between second and third row, I can click, hold, and drag upwards to make it thinner, to reduce the height. In the first row, I want to increase the height, so I want to do the opposite movement. Click, hold, and drag downwards, maybe like this. If I click on first cell, A1, I can input some title here. Maybe I can label this sheet or this template as Excel search bar. And in my case, okay, it's because I want this to be used into a inventory movement or inventory control, etc. However, you can change the title accordingly to your own personal goals. Let me increase the font size quite a bit, change the fill color to white, and also put everything in bold. That's it. it's time to create the search bar itself. And for this search bar, I want to go to Insert, Shapes, and we need to create the layout of the search bar. And I really recommend to use a rectangle with rounded corners because I think it looks better. Click on this option, click, hold, and drag on the screen to set up the area. And if you prefer, you can resize. You can make it thinner, reduce the height, increase the width, and etc. Let me click, hold, and drag upwards quite a bit, like this. Click. You can also use these circular handles. Click, hold, and drag inwards or outwards to change the shape. And this yellowish little circular handle, it's also used to change the format of the rectangle to make it rounded or less rounded. I'm going to keep up maybe like this, as rounded as possible. And something that is very important here is if you increase the width of the columns, let me show you here an example. Column D. If I click, hold, and drag to the right, look what's happened with the search bar. It also increases the width. But why is that? Because Excel has this as a standard. Every time you change the columns, the size, also the shapes are going to follow and change the size as well. To prevent this to happen, you can right click on the shape, go to size and properties. All the way here to the right, you can minimize size and go to the properties options and choose don't move or size with cells. This is a very important step. Let me close this panel and go back to the search bar. And now it doesn't matter if I increase the column width or reduce it, the shape is going to be static in the screen. What we can do now, we can input here a icon, maybe a magnifying glass icon, just to resemble to a search bar. And to do that, we can go to Insert, Icons, and look for the one that we want to use. I think the one that we are looking for is in Interface, maybe it's that. Yeah, all the way here down, we have the magnifying glasses. Click on the one you prefer, go to Insert, and then Excel is going to upload this icon on the screen. You can click, hold, and drag to move it around. Maybe I think I'm going to let this icon right here, using the circular handles to reduce its size. And with the arrow keys, I can precisely adjust where I want to place this icon. Let me click on the icon again, click, hold, and drag upwards, okay, like this. And I also want to change the fill color for this icon. I click on the bucket, on the paint bucket, and I want to use a gray color like this. Yeah, that's it. However, if you guys pay attention, the search bar doesn't work at all. It's just a combination with multiple shapes. So how can we make the formula bar actually works? We need to use the developer tab, and within the developer tab, we have a tool that can help us with that. But don't worry, we are not going to write one single line of code. What we are going to do here is we are going to add a tool that is a text box. However, if let's say you don't have the developer tab enabled on your Excel, you can go to the home tab, click in any blank spot with the right click of the mouse and go to customize the ribbon. Excel is going to open a new dialog box, and instead of use popular commands, you can change to main tabs, for example. Here you are going to find the developer, or instead of main tabs, you can also use all tabs and etc. Go to developer, click on it, click add, and then click OK. That's it. This is how you can enable the developer tab in Excel. With the developer tab enabled, you can go to insert and then to the text box. However, pay attention here because I'm using the second text box because in the first, within the insert, we have this dialog box divided into two sections, the first and the second one. I'm going to use the text box from the second portion, from the second part of this dialog box, right? So this is what I'm going to do. Insert dialog box, click, and then you just need to click, hold, and drag to set up the area of this search box. Right click in this text box and go to properties. Now it's time to actually set up and make the text box work. Let me go all the way down here to special effect first. Why is that? Why is that important? The special effect is the layout of the text box. And I don't want to use any special layout. I don't want to use borders. I don't want to use shadow and anything else. I just want to use a blank, a completely white text box. So this is why I'm going to click in this down arrow and choose 0, or in other words, no special effects. Another thing that is very important is every time I type in here a information, a product, a item, a category, let's say anything, I want Excel to understand it, so Excel can return the related values. And to do that, we need to link the thing that we type it inside the text box to a cell of Excel, any cell. So let me use here a cell to the right. Maybe we can go something like cell R5. I think it's a good place to link it, the text box. And to do that, we can go to the option called linked cell, this one right here, linked cell. You need to double click within this formula bar here, 1, 2, and then R5. This is the reference of the cell we are going to link it to the text box. Let me hit enter and let me close this panel. And in order to use the text box, it's very important to go back to developer and jump into the design mode. Click on it to turn it off. That's it. Design mode. It's very important to turn it off if you want to use the text box to type information. So let me click here. And let's say, for example, I want to type my name, Jopa Excel. And as I type my name, Excel automatically, immediately returned my name here on the cell that we linked, R5. And it's instantly, guys, okay? So while I'm typing, Excel is typing here as well. You don't need to hit enter in anything, just type on the search bar. Now we can use this cell right here as a criteria to the filter tool that we are going to create. However, how can I filter my data set based on this cell? We can use a combination of formulas. However, it's very simple, right? The main formula that we are going to use here is the filter formula. And just to you guys know, the filter formula is a very new formula of Excel. Maybe if you have an older version of Excel, you can't find this formula, but I think it's also possible to do this same tool with XLOOKUP or VLOOKUP or index match. That is a older formula, right? So there's different ways to create the same tool. We can do different formulas. Now let me skip a couple of rows here and go to row 9, for example, because here is where I want to return from the R5 cell, that is the search term. I want to return the items that corresponding to my search term. And thinking about that, we can use the data set and we need to choose a specific column. Let's say I want to use the column where I have the products. So this is my column to go. This is my criteria. This is the column that I'm looking for. Every time I type something that is related to anything that is within this column C, Excel is going to return the matches. And you also need to choose a column, okay? Go back to filter, and here we are going to use a formula that is equal sign, filter, double clicking on this option to select 1, 2. The first thing filter asks is about the array. Array is the range that we need to use. And in my case, I'm going to use the entire data set because I want to return the entire data set. So let's go back to data set. You don't need to select the header because I don't want to return the header itself. The header is not a part of the search. It's just a fixed object, let's say. The header is the header. It's not anything about the data set. So let me select from the second row, click, hold, and drag all the way down. When you select everything, Excel is going to return something like the table name for you. Table 1, table 2. And this is exactly what you need to see within the formula. Now let me hit comma. And if you prefer, you can click on the formula bar because it's easier to follow along. Filter is asking about this argument, include. However, for this argument, I need to input a new formula here that is number. This is the formula that is going to help us. Double click here, 1, 2, and then one more formula that is the search formula. 1, 2, okay. As you guys can notice, I'm using one formula inside another one, inside another one. And then when we have this in Excel, it's called nested formula or nested function. However, it's very simple, right? We are almost done here. Within the search formula, I'm going to use find text. What is the text, the search term I'm looking for? Is cell R5 that is on the other sheet. So let me jump back on filter and select the R5 cell. Okay, let me hit comma. Within text, what is the range we are going to use as criteria to look for whether we need to return or not the row? Is a specific column that I have that is the product. So let me go back to dataset and select this entire product column. Click, hold, and drag. Very important, guys. You don't need to select the header, right? Don't select the header. When you select the entire column that you are using as a criteria without the header, right? Excel is going to return something like the table name and the column name for you within those square brackets. Now we can close parentheses and then close parentheses again, comma. Again, we are within the filter formula, and the filter is asking about if empty. Let's say something that I'm looking for. Let me give you an example. I'm searching for my name, Jopa Excel. However, it makes no sense because there's no Jopa Excel within the products column. So the filter, instead of return a error, it's going to return a customized text, a customized message. And this is exactly what I think it's a good idea to use, okay? Open quotations and then product not found. Try again, or something on those lines. Close quotations, close parentheses, and then hit enter. Okay, look what happens here. Product not found. Try again. Okay, thank you, because I'm not a product, right? So if I change to a different text, let's say P, that stands for peanut butter or pea protein, Excel automatically returns all the matches. Let's try another one. Let's say zinc. Okay, zinc capsules. However, if I try something that doesn't make sense at all, like zinc with loads of letter C's, Excel is not going to understand, and there's no product such this one I'm looking for. So product not found, try again. And what we can do now, guys, is improve the layout of this search bar. And by the way, do you remember what we did earlier? Click on the shape properties. Do not move with the cells, right? We need to do the same process to the icon and also to this text box. And in order to do that, let me go back to the developer and enable design mode, because now we can click on the text box. Right click on it, go to format control, and here under properties, we can choose the last option, don't move or size with cells. And again, the same for the icon, magnifying glasses. Go to size and properties and choose the last option, don't move or size with cells. And then let's do a different layout here. Let's click on the rectangle itself, right click, format shape, all the way to the right. We can go to the effects, shadow, and choose the first option maybe. We can move on to the next options, that is this fill in line. Click on the painting bucket, fill. Let me fill with a white color, and as the line I want to use a dark black. Let me close this panel, and okay, it's looking way better. And how can we use the search bar? Because if I click on the search bar, I cannot use it. Because remember, developer tab, go to design mode and disable it. You need to turn it off. Instead of select the text box, you are going to click within the text box, inside it. Now you can use it. Let's say mass gainer. Yeah, that's it. It's working. And some other tips to continue to improve the layout, we can change the format of some columns. Let's say this is date. However, it's formatted as serial number. So what I can do is I can click on the whole column A to select all those dates. Home tab, click on the format number and change it to short date. We can do the same process to money, select all the values that are being related to currency and choose currency. Okay, that's it. Another thing is we can go back to the dataset and instead of create the header manually, row by row, column by column, we can select this entire header, click, hold, and drag all the way to the right. And then we can copy the header using Ctrl+C and then Ctrl+V to paste. Ctrl+C to copy, go to filter, click on cell A8, Ctrl+V to paste. Now go to Home tab, change the fill color to a darker blue. You can also select everything, align the middle vertically and horizontally. Just make sure the header doesn't mess up, right? So let me align again to the left and select all the columns B, C, D, all the way to the right until the end of the dataset. And in between one column and another, I can double click 1, 2, because that way Excel auto adjusts the column widths. And the search bar is working. If I click on the search bar and search for something, let's say creatine, this is the product I was looking for. And let's say I just type C. Excel is going to return everything that is related to the letter C. And what about capsules? Excel is going to return everything related to capsules and so on. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video on how to create a dynamic search bar in Excel that immediately return the items you are looking for. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I see you in the next one.